Hello, welcome back to the ministry. And today I wanted to really just talk about the attitude of gratitude and being willing to look back at where you've come from and where you're going. Okay? A lot of us have been through a journey. Some of you are starting, and I appreciate those of you that have come to me that are starting. But those of you that have already been through a significant phase of your journey, I want you to sit down in that for a moment. And maybe you are in a season of isolation and God does have you in a sitting down moment of that thing. And in the midst of you being in the sitting down moment of that thing, you find yourself feeling like, why am I going through this experience? What is this and why is this feel the way it feels? This does not feel good. I do not like it. Why am I being forced to sit in this moment? I did a podcast and I might link it in the blog post for the community where I talked about being in that place. God doesn't ever put you in a place without having a purpose for you to be there. Because there's been some seasons I was put in before that I did not understand why he put me there. Because I was like, God, why there? That was kind of bad. But some of the things on your bloodline are kind of deep. And because of the things on your bloodline being so detrimentally deep, he needs for you to have experienced that, not to mention where you're going, the mess that you're going to see. It may not be a physical, nasty mess like I walked through, but it may be a spiritual mess that when you see people portraying themselves as all put together, but their hearts are far from their external appearance, you'll be able to gather, okay, I see this. I understand what this is. That this is what God was trying to say in allowing me to experience that mess. Because understand something. Sometimes your surroundings, it is an environment that is reflective of what's going on within you. But sometimes your surroundings are a reflection of what's going on in the people that are around you. So, for instance, and I keep noticing that God does this. In the past several places that I've lived in, he's put me in positions where I'm the one that brings order to the place, meaning I'm the one that aligns things in such a way that brings about a level of order. But because of the spirit on the person and or people that were surrounding me was disorderly, it almost made it so hard to be able to be the one that brought order to that atmosphere. And people would say it, even in the place that I was staying. Every time people came into that space that I was in, they would always say, it's always peaceful in this room. It's always peaceful. And then they would turn around and bring somebody in there to bring disruption. That's what the enemy does. He brings in disruption and distraction. But a lot of us don't want to look back. And in the previous video that I did, if it comes up in the order that I did it, I reviewed the song La Brea by Alex Isley. And because of that, I made the statement, you need to sit down with a piece of paper. And in you sitting down with that piece of paper, I need for you to take the time to take and make the observation, go through your life. I don't care how old you are. Go back from the first thing that you can remember all the way up to now. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You can make 3 columns. I don't care if that's how you do it. But I need you to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Look at the lessons that came out of those and look at the blessings that came out of those. And then I want you to sit there and I want you to have gratitude for it. And any of those places that you felt that you had unforgiveness, forgive yourself, forgive those people, and then let it go and release it. Remember the gratitude and come back to God with the gratitude for having gone through those experiences, because there's a lesson and there's a blessing to that. It is a lesson and there's a blessing to that. Because I remember I was listening to Tea Time with Ariel yesterday, and she made the point of saying, a lot of you have done the work. But see, a lot of us, I remember years ago, I used to listen to Michael Jackson when he would talk. A lot of people didn't do that with a lot of musicians. They didn't listen to what they said. But I heard him in an interview or something that he was doing, and he was talking about how he doesn't keep his accolades in his house. He doesn't keep any of the things that he's achieved in his house. He kept none of that. He let his mama keep that. And I'm sure she still got it to this day. But when it came down to it, he did not ever look back at the things that he achieved, because he felt like if he looked at those things, that it would make him feel like he achieved something and he would stop. A lot of us have been through things and we kind of got that mentality subconsciously. I'm not going to look at the things that I've been through. I'm not going to look at the things that I've experienced. I'm not going to look at those things, because some of those things that we went through were bad, nasty, uncomfortable, filthy things. And because we went through that, I don't want to look back there. I don't want to experience this stuff. I don't want to go. It's not about the melancholy of going back there and dwelling in the bad parts. No. What God wants you to do in these moments that he's trying to get you to look back at is he wants you to look at it in gratitude for having walked through that experience and recognize the warrior in you that walked through those experiences and you survived. Because many people, some you're looking at right now, going through either judgment or going through trials that God's using in order to bring them closer to God. A lot of them couldn't walk through that you walked through. And a lot of them, when you do, because Deanna Neves was saying that in her video this morning, they're going to feel it's unfair, the blessing that you're about to get when God does release it. But a lot of us have been stuck in that mentality. I don't want to focus on back there. I still got to get to where I'm going. I'm not even going to focus on that. What do I got to do today in order to make sure that I got to get where I am trying to go? I'm laughing because I'm thinking of that moment in the movie Obsessed, where Idris Elba is yelling at Beyonce's character, and he said, "What do you want me to do? What do you want? Whatever you want me to do, I will do it. What do you want?" That's where we at. We kind of stuck in that place. God, what you want me to do? And God said, I want you to look back for a moment and recognize that you have come through some things. And I want you to sit in that. Because see, there's this hustle mentality that society has made popular, that you're supposed to hustle and never look at what you've achieved. Never celebrate what you have achieved. But God wants you to sit in that moment. And even though you're not where you're supposed to be, celebrate the fact that you walked through that. Take a moment and pat yourself on the back that you survived that. A lot of people wouldn't have. A lot of people wouldn't have sat in the places that God told you to sit in as long as God told you to sit there. To get whatever it was he was trying to get out of you in that season. And the reason that some of you don't want to look back is because it takes you to a place where you're like, I didn't want to be there in the first place. I don't want to think about looking back at it either. And God's like, I need for you to recognize where you were. You've sat in places that most wouldn't. You've walked through things that a lot would not walk. And for those of you that haven't walked there yet, your wilderness is coming. And I pray that I'm able to give you something in what I say in order to help you walk through your wilderness that you're about to come into if you haven't been there yet. But for those of you that have been there, sit in this moment and reflect. You did make it through. Because the only way out is through. And some of you made it through some scenarios that you think that most people would feel like a Marvel superhero was necessary in order for you to have gotten through there. But that was God that got you through there. And God wants you to recognize it. You ever heard a person say, it wouldn't have been me. It wouldn't have been me. I wouldn't have been able to do that. But you did it. You did. You walked through it. You went through it. You prayed through it. You fasted through that. You warred through that experience. And you came out on the other side. Some of you, you're not where you want to be. Some of you are back at the same place that you started at, and your mindset is telling you, I'm back where I was. But God's trying to tell you, you're not who you were when you were here before. You have come full circle. You have walked through the experience. Yes, you've walked through. But you're about to walk into something brand new. And I need you to recognize and say bye-bye to that stuff, because you're about to walk into something so much better. What was it? It was something I was thinking that if God brings it back to my remembrance, then I will speak on it. But you've walked through some experiences that many would never even step their foot into and would have thought to be crazy to have stayed in for as long as you stayed in it. And the only reason you stayed in it is because God told you to. Because those experiences tested you, and the devil brought people to you that kept asking you, so you want to leave yet? You want to leave yet? We can make it easy for you to leave. And you were like, no, because God said, I stay until I stay, and I leave when God says leave. And you walked through. You went through. Be proud of the fact that you went through, and not a level of pride in going through, but acknowledge. Don't operate in false humility. Allow yourself the ability to rest in the moments when God needs you to rest. And maybe in the season you're in, he's asking you to rest. And some of you are like, I can't rest in this season. It's so much stupidity and distraction going on around me. How the heck am I supposed to rest in this? What you mean, God, rest? And some of us are there. It's like, I remember, I'm going to admit it, I said it. I was standing in the bathroom about a week or two ago. I said, God, I ain't going to be arrested. I get to where I'm going. And guess what, God? Don't test God like that. Let me tell you something right there. Don't ever test God like that. Because God will say, okay, I'll leave you here until you get ready to rest. Because I ain't going to take you where you think that you're going to go until you do what I told you to do, which was rest. Everything you test him with, he will definitely accept the challenge. Because he knows that you're not going to outlast him. Remember, Jacob, God broke his bone out of his hip. Some of y'all been fighting God on the very things that he needed you to sit in obedience and do. And sometimes your obedience could you look back for a moment at the thing that you walked through and acknowledge the fact that what came out of that. That's what I'm asking you to do right now. Can you? Please. Because that's what I'm asking of you in this season. Please. So I need for some of you to acknowledge that. I do. And God wants you to too. And that's kind of the tip that He's had me on for the past several hours, like 20 hours, because He brought it up yesterday. And this is the first time I've been able to sit down and really talk about it. Lord, what is it? What is the thing that I said I wanted to talk about? Because I had a dream about something, and I'm trying to remember what it was that I wanted to discuss in relation to that dream. And yes, it has something to do with kingdom marriage, and I forgot. Ooh, where is it at? Give me 1 second. Okay, I think I found what I was looking for. A lot of us have been in a season where God's been testing us, but our season of testing is actually over. Our season of testing ended in 2022. It ended. But a lot of us have been kind of stuck in the mode of, okay, I got to test. Okay, I got to work on. Okay, I got to fight. I got a war. And God is trying to say to us, hey, you passed the test. I wanted to bring up this point because God gave me a dream, and He doesn't let me share my dreams because He usually gives them to me for me. And I didn't understand it. But He was trying to show me in that dream, and somebody else had experienced this recently as well, that some of us have already passed our test. And I believe what it is we have passed our test. God wants us in reflection mode, because the past few times I've had dreams in relation to it, it wasn't about the fact that I was going to take a test. It's the fact you already took the test. Even in the dream, it was like, oh, I'm about to take a test. And then the test was, I didn't even see where the test was taken. I was like, wait, what? You already passed. You got your notes from after already. Because when you take the test has notes that you write for having already taken the test, because you wrote those notes on the scratch paper while you were testing. You already took it. Test's already done. It's complete. The only evidence that you have is your scratch paper. And that is a whole word in itself right there to somebody. You already got the notes. You already got the cleaning notes. You already know what it is. You need to be prepared to sit and bask in that moment when you get ready to walk into this thing that is your blessing. But I need you to reflect. Look at your cleaning notes. Look at your notes that you took from the test. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. If you take the moment to go back and look. And it's so funny because now I'm seeing this. Keys to the Kingdom did a word on this about 6 to 8 months ago. And the Lord is bringing it back to me. Go back and look at all the stuff that you've gone through. Because those notes that you took, that is God saying to you, you already took the test. Don't take the test again. Because the reason they had me look back at this dream was because I remember I was in the dream. I was at the back of a classroom and I was observing, like, I'm waiting for this test to start. The rest of the kids hadn't gotten there yet. And I'm sitting there, and that was funny because I was in one of the outfits I wore in high school, which is actually one I got now. It's the black sweater with the hoodie thing, because that's the way I used to dress in high school. Black sweater, hoodie with jeans. That was me, and my hair was in a ponytail. That was all me. But I was sitting there like that, and I was sitting in the back with this look on my face like, oh God, I'm gonna have to take this test. And it was a proctor that walked up to me, and they said, no, you don't. Come with me. And she took me through a side. It was like the classroom was on one side, and then there was this door to a room that was separate from the classroom that the kids were going to take the test in. And I walked through this room past the test taking area. But when I got to the other side, the kids were now in the room, and I was in the front. From the back to the front. Go ahead, God. I was in the front with everybody else. And the proctor that was sitting at the desk that was proctoring the test for a bunch of other people took a notepad, turned the pad towards me, and he asked me a very specific question I can't talk about right now. And turned the pad towards me, and it was 2 observations of choice. You got this side, and you got this side. The second side led to a more open path. And to me, that breeds the narrow path is what most people will go for. But the path through God leads to the wide path. Or maybe I got it backwards. Most people choose the wide path, but the narrow path is to God. That's what it is. I said it backwards. Forgive me. For my super religious people, forgive me. Because I'm thinking of what I saw on the paper, because I wrote a diagram of what I saw in the dream. And the Lord showed me the proctor that walked with me through that other space. A tablet with a keypad, but I saw through the keypad a face, and I heard the words, "Do not take it again." A lot of us have been tested so much, we feel that that's our life. We've been going through the struggle, the strife, the experiences, the tough times, all of this stuff. God's like, you don't need to take it again. You already took the test. You're done. And a lot of us feel like, well, I'm not done with the season, so I got to keep taking. God's like, no, you don't. You already passed this. I need you to just sit in this and reflect over the answers. Because you're still going to need those answers when you get where you're going. Owe Tempo did a video years ago talking about the spotlight. I think it was about 2 years ago. Talking about Spotlight Part 1 and 2. And in it, she talked about arriving for a show that she was supposed to be at, and she didn't understand, because in the dream she started out at the show, and she's like, everybody's looking at her for like direction, and everybody's kind of confused as to why she don't know what she's doing. And then she's like, God, what am I doing? And God showed her to look at her watch, that you already got the answer. You already went through the test. The reason God wants you to sit right now and reflect on everything that you've gone through, the trials, the tribulations, the lessons. One, he wants you to go back and look because he needs you to see you passed. Next, he needs you to understand in gratitude, you did go through that. And it's not to say that it was easy. But it's not easy for most. But God's trying to show you in that moment, hey, you may have gone through it, but look what you made it through. You need to pat yourself on the back just for that. You made it through. Some of you really did make it through some hard situations. Whether it be family member sickness, death. Some of you made it through actual life-threatening illnesses, and you're still here to talk about it. Yes, the only way out is through, but you've been through. So now pat yourself on the back with that Isaiah 61, 7 and 8 that says you are about to be richly rewarded for all that you went through. You've been through. And now you're through. Yes, it doesn't look like it because you're still visually seeing the past. You're still visually seeing, but it is the past. Yes, you're back where you started from visually, but you're not the person that you were. And maybe the reason that God still got you sitting there is because your presence helps the people that he's testing in this season that are where you're at physically. He needs you physically there to spiritually stand in the gap. And some of y'all don't like that. Because you're the pride in you wants to be where your spouse is or be in that place. But why God can't I do that from over there? No, because you can't see what this person's going through if you're over there. Which means if you can see what they're going through, you can day to day, and because it's so ingrained in you to pray and intercede in that problem, that whatever the person's going through, you automatically do it. Just like I told you, I don't know whether it was this video or the previous video, I was talking about my dad's phone was acting funny, and I was like, stop playing with my dad. And when I went into my prayer closet, that the assignment ended immediately. You know how to pray like that and cut an assignment off that quick. You know how to cut the assignment off. You know how to shut it down. You know what scriptures to use. You know how to cut it off. And yeah, your God-ordained spouse is going through some little trials. If you're going through some trials and tribulations, think he ain't going through some trials and tribulations. Yes, he's going through some trials and tribulations, but your prayers are helping. But we take for granted the fact that we know how to pray like that. And because we know how to pray like that, we take for granted that fact that God answers our prayers like that. Remember yesterday when I released the word on judgment, where I was talking about Psalms 18 and the fact that God will come down on a cloud and respond. Some of y'all got to think before you pray for certain people, because God is the type of God, if you say it, he gonna do it. That's why you got to make sure you're in the right heart posture before you pray for certain people. Because he's going to deal with the issue once you sit down and pray. Especially with the right heart posture and the fasting position and the consecrating position and all of this type of stuff. He going to respond because he is proud of you. And not in the worldly proudness. He's proud of the fact that you sat through and stood through those experiences. So every blessing that is coming to you, you deserve. But he needs you. Though you are uncomfortable in this level of isolation, he needs you. You are Joseph right now in the waiting room as he is changing clothes. Because God's been showing me that repetitively, dream after dream, where I was either showering or changing clothes. I ain't even showering in some of those dreams. I'm just changing clothes. You're changing clothes. You are Joseph. Changing clothes before you go to meet the Pharaoh to express the dream. But a lot of you in this moment need to reflect. For those of y'all waiting on your God-ordained marriage, God's giving me this song. Beyonce, the best thing I never had. In that video, you see her taking the time to reflect back on the experiences and previous relationships before she walks down the aisle with the guy that she's marrying in the video. So that's where some of y'all are right there. Some of y'all need to reflect and thank Jesus. I remember I saw a post by JoJo about a year and a half ago where she said, laying here thanking God that I never had kids with the person that I was with before. Some of y'all need to do that. Thank God that you didn't have kids with that counterfeit, that during that time there was no other person that meant any other thing to you in that time frame. There was no one beyond the lights, the stars, and the sky, and this man right here that you was dealing with in that season. And right now, as the Lord has shown you who your God-ordained spouse is and has had you standing in the gap for that man, and you sitting there thinking to yourself right now, best thing I never had that man. Because if I had that man and married that man, I wouldn't be able to marry this one that God has prepared specifically for you. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Take the time and think about. I'm hearing that line from that song. Take your time and think about it, from Simply Irresistible. And you just need to do that. Reflect. Because it's going to make you better as you begin to walk into these new things. Because the culmination for the moment, your coronation's coming. And can I say that, Lord? I ain't got much time, but I'm going to say this. I had a dream, and I can't tell you about it because it was about me. It's specific to me in my situation. But I saw myself, God had brought in what I was expecting. And He allowed me to experience something in that moment with that situation. But I was supposed to be getting ready for the moment of promotion. But before I got into that moment of promotion, I was going to get this thing. A lot of you are going to get the thing you've prayed for before you get positioned in the promotion. A lot of you, depending on who it is the Lord has set you before to marry, you're going to get that moment with them prior. And then He is going to elevate you into a seen space. But He needs you to have this moment right now so that He can prepare you. And I'm going to leave you with this, if I got time to say it. That Esther's Way did a video. Fire, it's not a false alarm. You're getting married. You're getting married. And you're in this season because as God tears certain things apart, you're going to see a mess. But you and your husband are going to walk in it together. You're walking through it right now in the spirit, but you're about to walk in it together. He's promoting you. Get ready.